Hello, and thank you for joining us for Hello Mayor. I'm City of Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman. As you all know, the last few months have been extremely challenging here in Southern Nevada as we've dealt with the coronavirus pandemic and the fallout that followed. The good news is that we are back open for business, at least partially. I'm joined today by our wonderful city manager, Scott Adams, and Vegas Chamber of Commerce Senior Vice President, Government Affairs, Paul Muradkin. And as you can see, both are appropriately socially distanced, and they are here to give some insight as to how businesses in the city can work to bounce back. So Scott and Paul, thank you very much for joining us here. And let's start off. Let's talk a little bit about what we were like in February. Scott, tell us. I mean, it was so great.
Well, things were really unprecedented. We had an unprecedented level of business activity and development occurring, especially in the downtown area. Virtually every area downtown was experiencing some kind of growth and development. Symphony Park had started a lot of new housing construction, new parking garages, the casino core. You saw 3 hotel starts within that area. We got a new municipal court building under construction. Each of our 2 big districts, the Arts District and Fremont East, were all experiencing great levels of development and activity. So things were booming, and the prospects were for more continued growth and development in the entire area.
Well, I was terribly excited, and it was wonderful to meet with you, to hear every time we met there was something new, including the expo, the Convention Center for the World Market, and just wonderful things. And how about the chamber? What was happening overall through the chamber?
Sure, no, thanks, Mayor. For the beginning of the year, we kicked it off with a really strong preview of Las Vegas. We had a huge turnout this year at Wynn Resorts. We had NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell as our keynote. Members were excited. We had a phenomenal participation in events leading up to the year. Your State of the City was hopeful, was optimistic about continued growth. So we saw a lot of members excited about going into the year with increased activity. To Scott's point on development and construction, membership engagement was up significantly. So we were seeing a pretty strong first quarter as we opened the year up.
Which was so exciting for us. And then, of course, I think it was right mid-March, the word came down, the governor was going to shut down everything. And so where were you? Where were you psychologically as you heard this? What were your first responses to what you were going to do?
Well, aside from a little momentary panic in terms of how you deal with shutting a city down and over hundreds of facilities and all the things we have to do, it was really very matter of fact and straightforward. We had to do some things that really meant the safety of our employees, the safety of our citizens, and then I think the critical thing was maintaining essential operations of the city. The public depends on the city to maintain certain essential functions, and we had to keep those going.
And could you elucidate a little bit? What were those functions that you knew you had to keep going?
Well, unlike a lot of our private sector counterparts, we couldn't take the last 90 days off, and not that anybody took it off. But we had employees that had to show to work. We have firefighters, we have paramedics, we have wastewater treatment operators. If a traffic signal breaks down, we can't just let it stay broken. Somebody has to go out and fix it. And I can go on and on. If there's a pothole in the street, it has to get fixed. So we had a lot of our employees have to show to work every day, go out into the field and deal with those issues. We had a very small percentage of our employees that actually could work from home, and then a much smaller percentage who were deemed non-essential, who went home and were pending their callback. I'm happy to say, though, at this very moment, all of our employees are called back and back to work. So we are back in business as a city. We're virtually opening just about everything that we have scope over on a phased basis as part of the governor's plan for reopening.
And with the entire community, I mean, the Vegas Chamber serves the entire Southern Nevada area. What were the first things that jumped through your mind? And was the chamber physically, which is in the Smith Center, was that shut down?
No, we did close down, and our CEO, Mary Betsy Will, made sure that all the staff could work remotely. So all the staff has been working remotely during the closure, but providing services to our members, Mayor, as you indicated. So we've done online events, we've done webinars from or our congressional delegation to the city business license departments with the different jurisdictions, the SBA department. We had several with them about how members can get financing through the Paycheck Protection Program, the EIDL loan program. So we've been able to connect with our members through different platforms, and it's been pretty successful. We've had webinars up to 1,000 people participating.
What is the number of our employees in this city, and also what are the number of your employees at the Vegas Chamber? How many employees do we have in the city?
Full-time employees, we have 2,100 right now. That's down from almost 2,500 probably a couple of years ago. So we have been going into the pandemic, we were tightening our belts as a city where we were freezing positions, and then as the pandemic occurred, we had to freeze even more positions. We never laid anybody off. What we're doing as positions became vacant, we were freezing those and not filling them. So we were accommodating our cuts through attrition as opposed to actually laying folks off.
And you had just come out of the Great Recession of 2008 to 13.
We were already down. By reference, literally 10 years ago, the employment levels of the city were about 3,000. So we were down from the Great Recession, and now we're down further from there. So we are running lean and mean as a city. We are a very lean operation right now.
You've done a great job with it. And so what's been happening, what are the numbers of active day-to-day employees through the Chamber?
We have about 35 employees of the Chamber of Commerce. So we have marketing, finance, membership services, government affairs, front desk services, operations. So we have about 35 employees, which is actually the largest chamber staff in the state.
So any service have to go down and shut completely, even though physically you were not at the Smith Center, you were still able from home to continue all your programs?
Absolutely. We invested in technology to allow for webinar virtual systems for members.
How long ago did you do that?
We actually were starting to look into it and preparing in January because we knew members wanted to see some different platforms. We already had some programs, so we're ahead of the curve in what we wanted to implement because we had started moving that direction. Some of the program we offer is telemedia based already, so we were able to turn pretty quickly.
And did you feel the response from the community and the businesses? What were you getting from them as the shutdown continued?
Sure. Well, I think what businesses wanted to hear, first of all, was the Chamber of Commerce was open for business. We may not have physically been there, but we were servicing their needs. And what we saw early on was a real thirst for knowledge. What was out there from either city grants that you guys are offering to the federal grants through the CARES Act. There were a lot of questions about the paid leave through the Family First Act. We had the state labor commissioner on a couple of calls with our members to get all that new information because things were changing so fast. People had to adapt pretty quickly, but our members knowing the chamber was open for business, it's a stable force and guidance in our community, I think was very helpful for our members.
And were you open 24/7 or just open normal hours?
Oh, I think we've been on call 24/7. All the staff's responding, even on the weekends. We've seen a higher tick of inquiries on the weekend, of course. We monitor the websites, the phone lines were operational. But it really has been reassuring the members that we're going to get through this, making sure they had all the directives from the governor's office, that they were following state law, they were following OSHA requirements, because a lot of it was changing on them, and they just want to do what's right for them and their employees and protecting themselves and their customers and their employees. That's been their public safety has been their number one concern.
Well, and as you were handling the city issues, as the businesses now, the edict came down, closed the businesses. Right. How did people manage to do this? Where did the money come from? Did the city help?
Well, we did a number of things right away. First of all, we had to close most of our buildings that the business community comes into to do business in. So one of the things we did right away, we stood up within 48 hours a robust call center that not just our businesses but our citizens could call into and continue to do business with the city. They continue to make payments, deal with permits or whatever it is they had to do.
24/7 or only 5 days?
Well, we initially started on a small scale, but we're now up to 6 days a week and a lengthy day, a 12-hour day. So it's what it did was it not only enabled us to continue to do business, but expand the hours in which we could do business with the public. So it was a great idea. It was one that we had talked about, but this pandemic pushed us into gear of having to execute it. Then we started doing a lot of things that were responsive to the business community. In some of our areas in downtown, they were experiencing some break-ins because the businesses were closed. So we opened up a program to board up buildings, but we just didn't want boarded up buildings because they don't look good. We asked we provided grants through the redevelopment agency to provide for boarding up buildings, but they had to do it as public art. So now, if you go in the Arts District and other areas in the Fremont East area, you'll see beautiful public art instead of boarded up buildings where the boards are. So we funded that through a grant program. We've been doing outdoor dining. We let businesses use the sidewalks in front of their buildings. And then we've closed a couple streets in the Arts and Fremont East districts and put up tables and chairs and canopies to provide sheltered dining experience so that a citizen could go, a customer could go to a place, take out, and then go sit down and eat within the district. And those have been very popular. So we've done a number of things to be responsive to the business community within the pandemic. Then when we got the CARES Act funding, the really big money, we made—
Which is federal funding.
It's federal money through the CARES Act. We created a $4 million business assistance program, and that program's still available to businesses, small businesses of 3 to 25 employees who have startup costs associated with PPE or modifications to their workplace to accommodate the new rules that they have to start up under. And so we provide grants for up to $4,000 for those small businesses to pay for those startup costs. And that was funded through the CARES Act. So
and they don't have to reimburse that.
No, that's a full grant, and thanks to our partner at the Chamber and other partners, we've been getting the word out to all the different businesses within parts of the city about the availability of those programs. And
was that citywide or not?
It was. That business assistance program, about half of the money was dedicated to the redevelopment area and half to outside the redevelopment area because of how we funded it. But again, it was made available to a very small range of size businesses. The theory
3 to 25, you
3
said.
to 25, and what we've been seeing, and I'm sure Paul could comment on this as well, is that where the real pain occurred was in some of the really small businesses, especially those that had recently in the last few years started up, which we see a lot of in the downtown area, that really, really struggled through the pandemic, that were running out of cash, that were struggling to make mortgage payments or rent payments or whatever it happened to be. And we were just trying to do everything we could to help. We did a lot of other things during the pandemic in terms of waiving or deferring license fee payments, other types of provisions to make it as easy on the businesses as possible during this period. It's been a very challenging time.
Well, and for us in the city, that's one place, but you serve the entire area. So what types of incentives were out there that you were able to either augment or create,
Sure.
if any?
No, I think that's a great question. I think to Scott's point, I think the city grants have been phenomenal. They've been very helpful for members. The fact that the council and staff had allowed that to be expanded recently for some of the requirements have been very well received from the business community, because their concern is capital and investment dollars, of course, to keep their business opening. As Scott said, a lot of businesses opened up in January for the year. So some of them had just opened their doors, some were getting ready to open. So those grants have been very helpful from the city. There's dollars, of course, available, currently still available through the SBA, through the Paycheck Protection Program.
And what's that process for those who might be listening?
Sure.
Is that still available?
It is still available. PPP is what they call it. It's still available.
How do you get to it?
You apply through your bank, and then it's funded through the SBA. There's also something they call the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That's directly through the SBA, but that's pretty much closed down except for agricultural businesses. But businesses, if they get the dollars from the PPP program, they can apply for loan forgiveness. And it's designed to help with employee salaries, retention, PPE costs. So that's been very helpful for our folks as they're getting funded from their local banks. But also the Chamber took some extra steps and made sure that we shared with our members that were manufacturing PPE materials locally.
That's the face coverings,
absolutely.
All of
we have quite a few businesses actually who have shifted their production to that. We also made sure early on that we we provide a list to our members of the restaurants that were open for delivery and pickup and curbside. So that was another tool we were trying to make sure the community knew who was open for business to help those small businesses. But also recently, we've been working closely with the governor's task force. And for those small businesses, we actually now have available cloth face coverings. They're available free for small businesses. All they have to do is go to vegaschamber.com, submit the number of masks they want, and it's available to small businesses starting actually this week.
So, that's a wonderful thing. I know so many calls that we get here still because people have put their life savings into these small businesses. What have we been able to do? I know the biggest concern that we have had really are the huge number of unemployed, and we have to refer them back to DETR, which is the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehab, which is state funded. But what type of service have we been able to put forth to help anything more financially for the people who started these small businesses, have their life savings?
Well, I think one of the things that we've kind of held as a kind of a rule of thumb through this whole process is whenever a business was questionable about whether they needed to stay closed or be shut down or the rules applied to them, if it was in doubt, we worked positively with the business to stay open but meet CDC guidelines. I think our motivation wasn't to close businesses, but to keep them open and viable as long as possible, but meet the guidelines. And I think that was kind of the approach we took as a city and our business licensing folks, is that we really were balancing public health with the economic issues, making sure we stood strong on the public health standards, but kept them open as much as possible. Where there were clear situations where a business clearly was had to be closed, we had to honor that directive from the governor. But when it was gray, they were either neither defined as essential or non-essential, we erred on the side of the business and said, they're in the gray area. It's not fair to close them. So we said, let's figure out positively how we can keep them open and viable and operating. And I think that's been the one thing that I think we've been doing that I think has been most helpful, is just to keep their doors open, keep some level of business activity flowing through the business, because that would employ some folks, keep cash flow going, maybe help them pay the rent, and do things that otherwise, if you were shut down, you wouldn't be able to do at all. And I think that was pretty helpful, because we heard very positive things from a lot of businesses who could have easily been shut down, that we said you don't have to be shut down, and I think they kept the doors open, and they're still open.
Well, and I know the governor permitted the continuation of construction. Mm-hmm. And so did that affect the Vegas Chamber at all? Because we know our Muni Court building continued to be built, the hotel, Circa, and other projects at CIM, obviously out on the Strip. Well, how do you... How was that?
No, that was well received. I mean, obviously, we have members that are in the construction business. We have home builders. We have commercial developers. So I think for them, as we saw those projects moving forward, that was helpful to keep those folks working. They had income coming in. But I think that just part of it also is to share with you, Mayor, I think the fact what your business licensing department did, working with our members in terms of flexible payments, delay in business licensing fee renewals, waiver of late fees, that was helpful. To Scott's point, cash flow has been absolutely important. So if those dollars could be used to pay salaries, that's what our members want to do. They want to pay their employees, and that was helpful. That's some of the flexibility we saw from the city.
Well, and to me, that's the very biggest issue. I know that we had no room tax income. I'd like you to address that, which is what's the source of funding that we have enjoyed in the city. Also, probably the chamber, which works off of the small businesses, but the sales tax. Where was the money coming in?
Well, there quite frankly wasn't. I to be frank, we were hit pretty hard as a city operationally by the shortfall in revenues resulting from all the shutdowns, because we consolidated tax, which is mostly sales taxes, the lion's share of our revenue, the hotel motel tax, a whole range of fees and taxes were all really pretty much shut down. We were able to cut our budget substantially to get us through, and then we fortunately got a large injection of CARES Act funding, which we figured out how to use in a positive way to restore some of our budget and meet the requirements of the CARES Act. But I'd say there might be a little bit of if there is any silver lining to this, I think you touched on it earlier, Mayor, and that is that we didn't shut down construction. So it was a little surreal when you kind of went around, especially downtown, because everything was shut down except for the construction sites. They were the only viable things going on. And so we'll position ourselves. I'm sure we all know this is not going to last forever. So we now have another round of development that will open at the recovery. So all these apartment projects, the casinos, all these new projects are going to open and establish a whole new base for the area. And as we recover, those will fill up and create a whole new set of activities and greater economic base for the area. So,
I don't think that the people understand the challenge, I don't even know if you did sleep, how you slept, because really to know that there was virtually a cutoff of all income, and the priority of the city council for the past 21 years has been safety. And so as you address being able to keep us as safe as possible, those dollars, number one is safety and health care. How did you keep those factions open meanwhile going through
You
this?
just had to stay laser focused on those issues.
I know, because our homeless issue and how that's been affecting the city and businesses for certain.
And we just had to stay laser focused. I learned a long time ago that you can't help others unless you help yourself. So first and foremost, we had to take care of our employees. I couldn't afford to have, for example, firefighters become infected and start seeing entire fire stations shut down because of the spread of infections. So we made it very important right at the outset that the safety of employees was important, because we couldn't maintain those essential operations if we had an unhealthy workforce. So that was first. And so we've been wearing facial
And your
coverings.
marshal detail.
All of it. We set very strict standards. We call out employees that aren't meeting those standards because we cannot afford to go down. I mean, it's that simple. And when you're running functions that people absolutely rely on for even life and death, when you call 911 because of a heart attack, you expect your paramedic to show up. We can't have a situation where the station that they work out of was shut down and they can't show up on time because they were the victim of the spread of infection. So we had to set some really strict standards from day one and how we operated as a city. And then everything flowed from there. And then the other piece is I really had two priorities. One is making sure that was done, and number two, that we balanced our budget. Because at the end of the day, we had to have a balanced budget in order to continue our essential operations. And we've been able to do both. And now we're concentrating on the reopening process. How do we get back to viability again?
And so the budget, now your budget, because your operation is a totally different type of operation.
Correct.
Are you able to sustain the momentum and most of the programs that you're involved with, planning your budget for 2021 or not?
Well, that's a great question. So, I mean, actually, right now, what we're doing is our CEO had created a free membership for businesses that want to join the chamber.
Excellent.
So they're currently available through the end of the month. So we waive those fees for those businesses who maybe could not afford to join or had never really had exposure to chamber. So we've had quite a few join us. But right now that we're working with members on payment plans and they need to, we want them to stay. So our goal is to keep as many businesses operational and work with us. But I think this whole story as we move forward is I think the business community has done a phenomenal job keeping the city and the county going. For example, when this all started, we worked with the Trucking Association and the Retail Association and the Resort Association to make sure the food supply chain was going. Trucking kept going 24 hours a day to make sure the food deliveries were coming in. People were worried about the pandemic buying, of course. The Resort Association, as they were closing down their properties, made sure that PPE was being delivered to hospitals, to frontline nonprofits. I mean, what the business community did together, rallied together and working with the cities on delivery hour waivers has been phenomenal. I mean, our trade partners have been phenomenal partners in this whole process.
And if you had a moment to have a platform out there to the public through the chamber, what is the call out there as we take this cautiously,
Sure.
step by step? What is looking forward? What do you want to get out there?
That's a great question. I think right now for us, it's focused that stay open, stay safe. We need to move methodically. We need to be safe so we can stay open because we don't want to move backwards. So we're being cautious, of course, but making sure public health is the number one concern of our members, for their employees, their families, and all Nevadans. So we want to stay focused on that right now.
And do you have like a hotline or something for like our new CARES line that we have established? Do you have a line for people that specifically
Sure.
have questions?
Absolutely. Actually, if they call the chamber number 702-641-5822, we have staff who actually can answer questions on the grants, on the federal CARES dollars, SBA loans. We actually have retrained our staff to address those questions for members, and it's been pretty popular.
Which to me, it's all about communication and trying to find out. And so I can't tell you, it's just you've done the most stupendous job in an area that nobody saw coming. With no funding, we had no idea too if there was going to be some funding at the right time by the federal government, the state government, what was essential, what wasn't essential. I mean, the job, and now planning and going forward. What do you see? What are you feeling? What do you see going forward here?
The real unknown as of yet, and the early indications are it looks good, is just how extensively and how quickly will we recover as a region. And as you know, we're heavily dependent on the gaming and tourism industry. So, you know, the thinking is that we'll probably see a drive-in industry more robustly before we see a fly-in tourism visitation. But even if all the local businesses came back to work, we still are dependent on about 30% of the economy that's gaming and tourism. So I think that's going to be the big unknown, is how quickly will that recover and how extensively will it recover. There's been a group of regional economists have been doing projections on that, and they're looking at a more gradual recovery, something where we would recover over the next 2 to 3 years. So we'll it's hard to say. We're crystal balling at this point as to what our recovery is going to be.
And what was the most difficult thing for you going through this? Was there one particular?
I would have to say that I went 21 straight days without stopping. I mean, it just didn't stop. 21 straight days of working day in and day out to work on all the details. The amount of detail of shutting a city as big as ours down is daunting. And I couldn't have done it without my team. I have an incredible management team, and we were all working, literally almost 24/7 for several weeks straight to get all those things in place and make sure everything got executed well.
So I want to thank you, Scott Adams, for the leadership and everything that you've done through the most horrendous of times. And Paul, absolutely, for the Vegas Chamber, keeping us alive, keeping us hopeful, and keeping us now being able to move forward. So thank you both for joining me here, and we're so grateful to us. We are a family. Unemployment in our state hit an all-time high during this pandemic. And when we come back, I'll introduce you to the team from Workforce Connections. They help connect employers to potential employees.
I'm Joe Vassallo with Float Like a Duck. This is Ducky, and we're here to tell you about the ABCs and Ds of water safety. A is for adult supervision, always have an adult present. B is for barriers such as door alarms and self-closing, self-latching gates. C is for classes, take swimming, floating, and CPR classes. D is for devices such as a shepherd hook, ring buoy, and Coast Guard approved life vests. Have a fun and safe summer.
Welcome back, everyone. While it's great so many people have been able to return to work, others have not been so fortunate. Thankfully, Workforce Connections is in Southern Nevada. They not only help employers find their workforce, but they also help employees find a job. I have with me Executive Director Jaime Cruz, as well as Chief Strategy Officer Irene Bustamante Adams here with me. So thank you both for joining me, and I can't wait to have this conversation because I know I'm going to learn a lot, but more importantly, we have so many people still out of work and having issues of trying to get through to help at the state level. So let me start with, let's have a little history here. Workforce Connections is how old here in Southern Nevada? And tell me something about what its purpose is and who you serve, and are you open 24/7?
Sure. Thank you for having us, Mayor. Workforce Connections is the region's local workforce development board. It's been in existence almost 3 decades here in our region. It's one of 550 nationally. And we convene the public workforce development system here in Southern Nevada, and our mission is simply connecting employers to a ready workforce.
And how does that happen? Are you going out into the community? I know the unemployed will find you, but how do you get the jobs or the employers to participate?
Great. Well, it's a comprehensive strategy. A lot of it, we've known that it's been word of mouth. And so when you find a good thing, you share it with your families and your neighbors. And then we also use a lot of social media and other communication strategies to make sure that employers know how to find us through the chambers or through Las Vegas Global Alliance. And if you're a job seeker, that there's many avenues for you to be able to find us.
So how do you find the employer, though? I mean, if in fact an employer wants to add to his workforce or her workforce, why would they know to come to you rather than to go to some private company? First of all, is there a fee charged to either the employer to be part of Workforce Connections?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mayor. Most importantly, no, this is at no cost to the employer. These services are funded by taxpayer dollars. This is federally funded. And so, I think the most important thing now is that we are working in partnership with all of the chambers of commerce and their membership. And today we brought to you a sneak peek, like you said, of how are employers going to find us. We have had a network of centers, if you will, that were focused on the job seeker until now, 15 here in the Valley. But we are going to open 2 new centers with staff that's trained specifically to serve businesses. One is going to be located at the Vegas Chamber of Commerce, and one at the beautiful Sahara West Library on the west side of town.
Great.
And so we put together a little animation package to show you how in about 30 days we're going to launch this to the community. Would you like to see it?
I would love to see it. I think everybody would really enjoy seeing this.
In one stop, employers will be able to get access to a qualified and ready workforce and all kinds of tools and subsidies that will allow them to bring those people back to work, again, at no cost to them. But they'll also get access to tools about how to access capital, financial coaching through banking institutions. They'll also get information about licensing and certification, all kinds of needs of businesses they will find in these new business hubs.
So they are actually a center of training as well?
Their employees will be able to access training. The training probably won't happen in those hubs, but the referral to the training could happen right there.
And so walk me through it. Here I am, I'm opening a business, I'm making candies. And so I want to reach out, I'd like some more employees. I only have 2, I'd like 5. So here I come in to you and I'm interviewed by someone.
Yes, you would.
How many people will be staffing these centers, these hubs?
Yeah, great question. There will probably be up 4 to 5 people staffing these hubs. So let's say, like you said in your hypothetical scenario, you go to the Vegas Chamber in beautiful Symphony Park and you walk in and a business representative will be able to chat with you and really understand your needs, what kind of skill sets those employees need. And we'll go to the other side of our equation, the supply-demand equation we manage is we'll go to those employees that we have and find those that are uniquely qualified to be your employees. And then we will cover some of the cost, if you will. We'll carry a portion of those wages for those first few weeks.
And as as I come in, the employer, you are expecting me for full pay to my new employees, or is it shared by Workforce Connection and the federal dollars, and for how long a period?
Those are all great questions. Of course, the federal dollars have parameters that measure skill gaps, and those kinds of things dictate how long that subsidy will happen. But on a rough scenario, we could probably cover half of the wages for the first few weeks of employment.
That is absolutely phenomenal, and the opportunity. Now, you use the chambers, I understand, the Asian, the Latin chamber, and all the chambers. You call them and you say, we have a job opening in this new little candy shop that's coming available, or do you wait and have them contact you that we have somebody that is looking for work?
Yeah, in the past, as we said earlier, our centers were focused on the job seeker, 15 of them.
Okay.
But we believe that there is a need to have a focus on the business, especially in this time of recovery. So again, we believe these 2 new business hubs will give businesses the opportunity to contact us directly through the Chambers of Commerce partners and be able to access those things that they need without having to wonder. Again, these business hubs are built for them.
And what have you seen? What was happening through Workforce Connections? What were you doing in January and February that once the shutdown hit, everything, whatever, stopped, fell out, whatever?
Yeah, we were getting close to under 4% unemployment, right? So we were thinking, where are the other alternative labor pools that we need to pull from, because businesses are still going to be coming. Where are the workers? And so the board and the elected officials that rule over us started to look at alternative labor pools. People with physical disabilities or intellectual disabilities, those from the re-entry population, youth. We have a large percentage of youth that do not know how to connect to the workforce system, and so we were looking at alternative labor pools and how to strategize around bringing them into the fold.
And how many employees are involved in this? I mean, that's a huge undertaking when I think about our veterans that need to get back to work. There's so many areas, and you mentioned the students that maybe are at the college level or in high school that need employment. And do you connect these as all of these people? Is that, I mean, my goodness, it's an enormous undertaking.
It's an enormous undertaking. And so one of the things when I joined about 2 years ago is that we were the best kept secret. But under Jaime's leadership and other leaders at the board level, we've been able to change that around by connecting with the chambers, because they're usually the first point of contact for an employer. And in addition, with local municipalities like the city of Las Vegas. So when the municipalities are thinking about, we're going to turn this into a redevelopment area, let's bring Workforce Connections to the table and talk about the workforce strategy. And so that's how we also get connected to employers.
So are you out at the chambers talking to the large group, or walk us through some of it? Let's go to one of the Asian, psychologically here, let's go to an Asian Chamber of Commerce, and you have gone to one of these. Are you meeting with the entire body of that chamber, or are you meeting only with the business people to sell, we can help you, or what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, we have a tremendous relationship with the CEO of every chamber. Okay. And we also make sure that we attend the events that you're talking about. Staff from Workforce Connections attend those events to interact with the business members. But I think most importantly, Mayor, is we have now monthly meetings with the CEOs of all the chambers.
Wonderful.
To be able to have one unified strategy to serve all businesses in Southern Nevada. What I've been impressed the most is that I've heard the chamber say, it doesn't matter if it's my member or your member, we have to serve the businesses together. And I think that's one bright light in this great time.
Well, and are you working with all of Clark County comprehensively, and is this also throughout the state? Because I'm wondering, we have the Las Vegas Global Economic group, and do you go out there and talk to those employers and saying, this is what we're doing and we need to get the word out and get more of these private businesses and public businesses
Yes.
to be part of our effort? And
I think you're going to love to hear this. Irene can tell you about 2 positions that we embedded at the LVGA and the Vegas Chamber that will help with that.
Yeah, and so the short answer is yes. In the past, it might not have been as strong, but it has evolved because of the crisis and bringing us to the table when they're trying to recruit a company so that a company knows what is offered within the region. And so our responsibility as a local workforce board is not only Clark, but also Nye County, Lincoln, and Esmeralda. And so we cover those 4 counties, and those positions that have been embedded in the LVGA and in the Vegas Chamber are going to be our first line of defense, so that Jaime and I would not necessarily have to go there to make the presentation. We have those subject matter experts to be able to do that and talk about the entire system, not just the local workforce board, but like Jaime said, it's a partnership of other partners within that system that make up the public workforce system. And so those positions bring those resources to the table and make us more competitive as a region, and put our best foot forward.
And what range of jobs are we talking about? Are we talking about and what level of income? I mean, if in fact somebody has a skill but would love to learn, what's the range here for the people that would be interested?
Yeah, so I think we've been seeing this, Mayor, for a while now, that the everybody talks about the future of work and how disruptive technologies are changing the labor market, rideshare and other things. And so we had already seen a move, if you will, where jobs were going away, certain jobs and being replaced by certain new processes, new technologies. The experts say that the pandemic has accelerated that. And so we will have, hopefully, and that's part of what we're doing, is helping X amount of people return to their old jobs and helping employers cover some of that cost. But we know that there'll be another number of employees who won't be able to go back to those jobs. So we are there, again, at no cost to them, to retrain them, reskill them, retool them into some of these new technologies that will be the things that new jobs are based upon. So again, that's another reason to go look for help at these one-stop centers.
Is the community college, the College of Southern Nevada, helping? Are the tech schools, are our unions helping here? What's your relationship? Let's go to the unions, because having toured so many of their wonderful training and apprenticeship programs, I mean, I just looked at them and I thought, wow, this is fascinating. I'd love to learn. But what a wonderful, they could be a super help.
So the short answer is yes. The CSN has been a tremendous partner, especially under the new leadership of Dr. Zaragoza.
He is wonderful.
His background is workforce, so it is not something that we're having to teach on an entry level. He's actually spearheading a lot of the initiatives. And so CSN is sharpening their tool. They are thinking about all those what we call dislocated workers, people that have been laid off, and saying, okay, what can we do to create pathways for them? Path one could be somebody that just wants to have some short-term training, only 6 to 12 weeks. Let's have a section for them. And then step 2 are those that may want to go into a new industry and need some more time for training at CSN, and they've created a pathway for that and so forth. So we are very we are very connected and working side by side in order to be able to meet the needs. That is strategic, that makes us competitive, and also Dr. Zaragoza is now on our board. And not to just make light of that, but in addition, the superintendent of the Clark County School District is now on our board.
Wonderful.
And so you are getting a full strategy from K through 12, till what some people call grave, but it is that full spectrum that we've never done before as a region, and that's what is going to help us to stay competitive.
Well, the biggest thing to me, and being fortunate to have been mayor all this time, the first thing, we get so many ideas coming into us all the time. And my first question is, after hearing the fabulous idea and now just having heard this from you, how is it funded? Where is the money coming from? If I have been somebody in the hospitality business, which has been my passion, is to get these people back to work who were laid off, all the hotels closed down, small businesses losing everything. How do you, with somebody who's not had a job and no income, how do they get involved and who's paying for it?
Great question. And so the funds come from the federal government. So each state is allocated through a formula dollars for their state. In the state of Nevada, there's 2 local boards, one for the South, which we work with, and then up north. And so the money comes to each state based on unemployment rate and other factors, very complicated, but our pot of money is an average about 20 million for the region.
For how long? 1 year?
No, well, I'll
Yeah.
let Jaime cover that.
So that piece, Mayor, is every year 20 to 25 million. We believe now, because of what's happening, it's going to be a lot more.
Okay.
But also, I think one thing to mention is that Workforce Connections administers one of 17 funding streams that make up this public workforce development system. The agencies like DETR or the Department of Health and Human Services, CSN, there's many other agencies that have more employment and training dollars that are part of that big pot. So that big pot, to answer your question, is more in the range of $120 million. Those are the employment and training resources that come down to Southern Nevada. Workforce Connections directly administers about 20 to 25 million.
Do you have those funds now? Because that's what we're hearing, that the individual that doesn't have a job, can't get a job, can't get through to that pot of money, and is just stuck with no income and no help. So are these dollars available for the individual today to come in and find out where's an opportunity for me now?
Yes, the short answer is yes, Mayor. They just have to access our one-stop centers through nvcareercenter.org.
Would you repeat that,
Yes,
please?
the website is nvcareercenter.org, and there they will find which ones are open to the public today and which ones are available virtually.
And obviously the virtual ones, I mean, the information is there online 24/7.
Yes.
Because I know some of the things that we hear, because the system has not been up to speed in handling this huge, we are number one in unemployment
Yes, we are.
in the country, but we knew it was going to happen, because you can't take a hospitality state, shut it down, and you need to have a plan. So there's a desperation out there for just immediately, if I call in today, I'm down to my last $30. Will Workforce Connection hopefully can get me next week in employment?
That's the goal, Mayor, that, they are still, even in this pandemic, there are employers that are hiring today. That's in the logistics sector and transportation and food service. And so, yes, the goal is that that person who is ready and willing to go to work today, they can find help with us.
I understand that you have a program that has been helping businesses stay alive through this pandemic and through the shutdown. So can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
Absolutely.
I'm going to let you take
Oh,
that,
okay.
because that is one of the things that I appreciate about Jaime's leadership is the innovation that the local workforce board is undertaking. Before, I wouldn't say that was their strongest skill set, but that has changed dramatically under his leadership.
So, Mayor, we had never done this before, and as a matter of fact, not many boards across the nation have done it, which, by the way, I think is important to tell you, because we're doing such great things here in Southern Nevada, there's only one board across the nation of the 550.
Excuse me, how many years have you been doing this?
10 now.
Okay, so let me tell you, this has to be Emma's. This is the truth. Okay.
So, as you know, I travel sometimes to the U.S. Conference of Mayors with you, and we have been waiting for a chance to be on the stage. We couldn't be on the stage because it got canceled for the pandemic, but our organization, Workforce Connections in the Vegas Chamber, was recognized among 550 boards as the best board in the nation of connecting businesses to the public workforce system. And so we were...
So why haven't you been on my radar. I am the head of the small business program at the U.S. Conference of Mayors.
That's right.
I'm going to get you on
Yes,
next
please.
January. So please go ahead, tell everybody.
And so I think part of the reasons why we've been recognized is the ones we've been sharing with you, but also this one. The layoff aversion pilot was meant to put money down to where it was really needed, as you're saying. The tomorrow, I don't know what I can do tomorrow. So we were fortunate that the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation passed down $345,000 to us and said, what can you do today? And so within 2 weeks, we worked with the LVGEA and the Chambers of Commerce, and we found 60 plus businesses and 275 plus employees, and we were able to keep them on the payroll until today. They're still going. So to avert that layoff, to be able to, so they're not one more of those numbers that can't get through, that can't collect. So they're being paid. Their families are being fed, and so because that was so successful, we had a private donor, Bank of Nevada. They said, we think you're doing such a great job. Here's another $100,000 to help more businesses. And so then 2 weeks after that, Dieter said, this is just fantastic. We're going to put $350,000 more towards this. So the layoff aversion pilot has just been a tremendous success. And because of it, there's families in Southern Nevada that are still receiving a paycheck and still in their homes and working.
And all the way through this, you've been able to sustain this.
Yes.
So if there would be somebody, I'm not supposed to fundraise, but I don't listen to those things. What if, in fact, somebody were tuned in today and hearing this, if they want to support that program, what do they do?
Just call us. Yes, they would just
Okay.
reach out to us at Workforce Connections, and we would love to have them.
And
be
how about a
part.
phone number?
Yes, our phone number would be 702-638-8750.
So one of the examples of one of these savings, as I call it, and sustaining a business, what's one of the ones that just really have touched your heart? I'm sure they all have, because this has been such a difficult time.
I think for me that one of the features that you're going to see is a woman-owned business that lives within the city limits, that she was going to have to close her doors. And in the video you'll see what our efforts have done to help her to keep her employees working, because for her the employees are family. And so the layoff aversion will feature that business, and if you'd like to watch it now.
We're in the retail floral industry as well as the event industry, and for the event side of our company, it has literally shut it down. There will be no events of almost any size for a while, and then when they do start coming back, they're going to be smaller events at first. So our events through the next 3 to 6 months have all canceled or postponed, mostly postponed. The layoff aversion program has been really great for us because it just gives us that additional layer that offers us the option to say, okay, this will help offset the next few weeks in what our payroll looks like when we are slower and we're having to say, okay, we have our employees, are we going to be able to keep them? This just gives us that layer of protection that yes, we're going to be able to keep them, bring our other employees back on, and know that we can again move on to the next step, make sure that we're here beyond 2020. We are, very, very challenged by all of this, and our staff has been our family for so many years. So for us to know that, we can keep them on and that they can keep putting food on their table. I've joked with them over the years that I don't work just this hard for me. I work this hard so that I can keep food on families' tables for all of my team. We will get through it, just like the challenges we've gone through in the past, that we'll be able to go on for another year after that, continue to grow well beyond 2020.
So these are absolutely incredibly innovative, creative, and it's such an important time, because whoever would have thought in January and February, where we were at this optimum of employment and building and excitement. As you look to the future, what are you seeing in the immediate future? Because I know that we're cautiously optimistic. We're not sure that there isn't going to be another shutdown come the fall. But as you prepare for the future, what are the things right now that are on your plate as you look to help those still so many of us are out of work?
Yeah, so I think, Mayor, you hit it right in the head. The main concern is, will we have another bump in the road? We hope not. We hope that we're opening. We know our resorts are doing a fantastic job with doing it the right way. We believe that small businesses are doing it the right way. I know the city is helping with masks and things for. So optimistically, we hope that this gradual opening will be successful. We hope that we know we have a long road ahead of us, but we just want to again be connected, if you will, to the real needs of business. And so what's in our mind is continuing to work with the municipalities and the chambers of commerce to meet the needs of business. That's what's on the forefront of our mind.
So as you know, you spent a little time at the legislature. As our legislature, which there are only 4 states in the entire country that meet every other year. We meet every other year. What are you planning do you approach the legislature in this time of definite crunch on dollars? Because if we can get everybody back to work in some job interimly and train for the continuing move towards technology, what are some of the things, or are you not, because you get federal funding, you don't go to the legislature?
We don't, but we have been invited to speak as subject matter experts, and that is helpful. I know when I was there that I did invite Jaime actually to come and share about the workforce system, and I think that that has spearheaded to some of the things that we're doing now. In addition, we're developing what we call workforce champions within some of the elected officials, inviting them to the comprehensive, seeing how we serve the community, both from the employer and the employee, both at the local level, state level, and at federal level. Right, the more champions we have, the better that we can advocate. And then we have been, they ask us for our opinions on if you could change things, what are some recommendations, some barriers that you could remove that would make it easier for employees and employers to get connected to the workforce. So,
to which you have answered, what are some of these barriers? Here's an opportunity.
Yeah, well, part of it has to do, again, that there is still state laws that get in the way. And so just this morning we were talking with Dieter about a policy that says that workers can't go back partially to work. In other words, in other states, the unemployment allows you to go back partially, and so the employer pays you a little bit and UI pays you a little bit. In Nevada, we can't do that. So that's one example. We could legislate to fix that.
So that gets figured here in Nevada, or is that part of the federal edict?
No, that's a barrier here in Nevada because there are 26 states that do that. There's 24 of us that don't.
Well, we'll be there with you all the way, because to me, if you can't have the dignity of supporting yourself and your family, what is there? And so that's why from day one I was so opposed to the shutdown. I know it was something because health is singularly important, but the reality is the tales that we hear. And so what you're doing at Workforce Connections is so incredibly wonderful. And I can just assure you, everybody at the city is here to help you do whatever. And as we go back to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, make sure you're right up there, because I said that chairmanship of the small businesses. And so I'm out of time, but thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much, Irene and Jaime. Thank you for watching at home, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Hello Mayor. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and boy, are we lucky you two are here. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.